You may be asking yourself, is there ever a reason to bust out Cantonian Electrode in the world of competitive Pokemon? No. But I'm going to make it a beast anyway because Electrode is my spherical goat. While this thing is practically unusable, being outclassed by damn near every other electric type option, it does have one thing going for it, and that is pure speed. It's got base 150 speed, which does make it faster than just about everything, but the problem is that's pretty much where the upsides end. It has basically no other redeeming options in its stat spread, but sometimes you gotta push that base 80 special attack to the absolute limit. In terms of move pool, Electrode also struggles in this category, being extremely limited. But the best thing we can do for our boy is slap on a choice specs for a nice little 50% special attack boost, and with this we can get some pretty solid damage with super speedy pivots and stab volt switch, our highest damage output with Thunderbolt. But what is pretty nice is Terra Blast Ice for the surprise coverage, but also turns out to be like its only coverage option. Its ability Aftermath is something that people always forget about, and it can come in clutch by dealing a quarter HP damage to an opponent that knocks us out with a nice little contact move. And finally, as is tradition, since there's literally no other option for a full attacker set, we're gonna toss on Explosion as a last ditch effort because it truly would not be an Electrode without a bomb option. So yeah, Electrode is a forgotten fella that never gets to see the inside of a battlefield until today. Look, Electrode may not be the best. I mean, or really that good at anything. But you got to admit, Electrode might just be on top when it comes to most spherical boys. And he's happy all the time, so I guess that counts for something. But today we're going to mess around with some Electrode action just because I've been using almost the exact same Electrode since I started Wi-Fi battling and started my channel in like 2009, which is crazy. I mean, back then he was going Hidden Power Ice, now we got Terra Ice. And so today we're showing some love to the most creative Pokemon design ever made. And if that sounds like a fun time to you, consider hitting that subscribe button. It's free, it only takes you a second, you probably won't regret it. And with that, let's go ahead and jump into the match. Alright, so there's nothing quite like starting a game off just immediately being in immense danger. And that's exactly what happens as my opponent starts off with a Volcarona. I am afraid of Quiver Dance setup and just being destroyed by this thing immediately, as I've got, you know, the far superior bug type in Masquerain. I am here to set up Sticky Web, but the problem then becomes, as they can Quiver Dance early, they're just going to be able to set up in front of me and immediately just be a problem. Now, this Sticky Web's going to help me out for later. While I am Focus Sash, I don't know if this thing wants to like continue to Quiver Dance, but I should have a plan in the back to get rid of it. Now, it's gonna have to be able to take out Masquerain, sadly. Now, I decided to go for the Quiver Dance here just in case they wanted to Quiver Dance again. But they just straight up Fire Blast my ass, burnt Pinhead Larry right to a crisp. And as I Quiver Dance, they are still going to be faster. I should have just gone for some damage, if I'm gonna be honest. But instead, I'm like, hey, look, I can Quiver Dance too. But I shouldn't have done that. I should have just tried to get some damage off. But at this point, now they're gonna be able to outspeed and finish me with a Bug Buzz. But it's fine. Masquerain, all I needed to do was get up my Sticky Web. That's gonna help me out a whole lot in the back. But also, now I have to deal with the massive problem that is Fire Moth. And with setup, just with one Quiver Dance, this thing's immediately a threat. But what I do have to be able to stop this thing from just ripping through the squad is our boy Shield Phase. I can go into the Bastiodon here, and that is because I have a built-in Focus Sash with the Sturdy. I know they're going to go for a Fire Blast. It actually doesn't even knock me down close to Sturdy. But I can then go for a Metal Burst, deal back double damage on what they hit me with. Just kidding, it's 1.5 times. But regardless, that's enough to take care of the Volcarona, and we will not be swept by the turn 1 setup today, thank God. Now, I was kind of hoping that would knock me down a little closer to death, because if I was at a quarter HP, I would be in Custat Berry range to be able to activate a little sneaky priority. And sadly though, the Fire Blast just didn't do enough damage. Sometimes Bastiodon's just too bulky for its own good, because then as the freaking Xbox comes in, an Earthquake is able to take care of me, and that is, it's fine. Now with the Revenge switch in, what I decided to do is I'm going to go into the Hoopa Unbound, and that's because this Metagross looks like it's itching for 6 Knuckle Sandwiches at the same time. I go for the Hyperspace Fury, which I'm able to outspeed, which is nice because I'm fully max speed on the thing. Sadly though, it freaking lives it. It barely is able to hang on. Makes him hungry enough to pop a Citrus Berry, and the good part about this Hoopa is, while that is going to drop my defense stat, that's going to then activate my Eject Pack, and I can just go ahead and make sure that thing is safe for later. So bad news, while I get good damage, the bad news is now I have to go into something that wants to take an attack from a freaking Metagross. I figure they probably Meteor Mash, And while Electrode is never the guy you want to switch into an attack ever, I decide, you know what, I can take a steel type attack. I come in, I do live it with over half, which is kind of surprising because now I can just go for a nice little speedy Thunderbolt and just bop him one, and Electrode grabs itself a nice little satisfying kill there. So I'm choice spexed into the Thunderbolt here, which is mostly fine. But as they bring in the Blaziken, this thing is always a problem. At least I'm able to kind of jump on the fact that it's not going to have crazy speed initiative just with that sticky web. I figure they probably go for a protect here just to try to build up some speed. It's going to need 2 speed boosts to even be close to what Electrode's working with, especially after the webs. But I also figure if there's anybody who can deal with Blaziken, it's probably Whiscash. This team is completely full of random nonsensical fellas. Honestly, this Whiscash, I've got a Hypno, I've got all sorts of random stuff here. But good thing is, as they go for the protect, they do get the speed boost. But I figure, you know what? I can Dragon Dance in the face of this. Whiscash dreams of being a dragon every night, but luckily it does have Dragon Dance. So as they end up swapping into the Quaquaval, this feels like still a pretty decent position to set up with the cash. Now, look, with Dragon Dance, Whiscash just might be the worst mon that gets access to Dragon Dance, but I still think it's kind of sweet. This thing needs so much help to be able to get going, but as I get a free Dragon Dance there, I'm also looking at this thing thinking this Peacock cannot kill me with one hit unless something crazy happens, but I can freely go for another Dragon Dance. You basically need at least 2 of them to get this thing to hurt some stuff. So as they end up clicking the Aqua Step, does do a little bit more than I would like, but I am at least, you know, still alive, which is a plus when you're a Whiscash. But it gets itself a speed boost. Luckily, since I have 2 Dragon Dances and that thing has the sticky web, it's now just at neutral speed, which is fine because now at +2, I can go for a Stab Earthquake. I'm thinking, hell yeah, Whiscash on top. Full game sweep. Nope, it lives it with 1 HP. Somehow the Quaquaval lives it. It allows them to go for another Aqua Step. And that is going to ruin my hopes and dreams for the freaking catfish. So that's mildly upsetting, but I mean, look, it's a Whiscash. It kind of is what it is. But luckily, you know, I got this thing to the point where I can knock it out with anything. And looking at it also here, since they do have an Aqua Step boost, I still should be faster with Electrode, considering Electrode bout fast as hell, and the sticky web helped me out there. So I should still be faster. I can go for a Volt Switch to cover for anything. Luckily for me, they just stay in. We will not be swapped by the Dancing Peacock with the Sausage Toes today, and that is satisfying. So I go for the Volt Switch there, just because now I can bring in whatever I want. Electrode doesn't want to stay in locked in too much, really, because I'm kind of worried about things like the Blaziken, who can take an attack. And honestly, Blaziken kind of the big threat right now. If it gets a Swords Dance up and some speed boosts, that fella is going to be a problem. So I end up going into the Hoopa because what this does is it kind of creates an interesting dynamic here. Because first of all, with the sticky web drop, I'm going to be faster. I'm fully max speed. Now, it forces them to have to click protect. But what it's also going to do is Blaziken is not that naturally fast. We're both base 80 speed. And luckily for me, considering this Hoopa's on a sticky web team, I'm actually just a plus speed nature with max speed as well. So now, since they get the speed boost, we got ourselves a little speed tie situation. Now I decided to roll the dice for a Psychic Noise, and while I do outspeed, I get lucky on that, it is going to be Focus Sash, which is annoying. So it also put this thing in a spot where now it can potentially, knowing it's Focus Sash, it's definitely going to click Swords Dance, and now I am in just immediate danger of a spicy chicken just kicking my ass to death, because with doubled attack, it now is going to be building up speed boost. It's going to be faster than everything. And at this point, they go for another protect here, just to go ahead, grab another speed boost just for the road, because they're probably like, I can never. They saw the Hoopa outspeed. They're probably like, what the hell's going on here? I got to be faster than that Electrode for sure. But definitely now after this next boost, it's gonna be looking real scary. A Blaziken at 1 HP with all the sorts of Swords Dance boosts in speed is definitely going to be able to sweep the squad. However, that would be the case if I didn't have an absolute bomb. These are bombs from a damn bomb factory, baby. I can switch into the Electrode here. Knowing that they're going to click close combat, they're also going to have to make contact. And what everybody forgets about, as it is going to be able to knock out the Electrode, that 1 HP you had there, I'm going to go ahead and steal that with some Aftermath, baby. You should not have touched the bomb. That is going to be, honestly, the clutch move that takes care of the Blaziken and realistically saves the match there, because I had nothing that was going to be able to take an attack or obviously be able to outspeed. I had no priority. The only win condition there was Electrode's Aftermath finishing the job there. So that is incredibly satisfying. Now, while that feels pretty good, the job really is not quite over yet, because they've got 2 Mons left. It's going to be the Goodra along with a Garchomp. So they got 2 scary dragons. Luckily, as I have my Sticky Web, Hoopa is kind of my biggest offensive threat here. Now, I can get some big physical damage. Being a mixed attacker, I opt to just go for the Hyperspace Fury. Just portal punch the shit out of this thing. It does end up living. Slime Bob's able to hang on because bro's thick. But since I have no item after using my eject pack, I can steal its Rocky Helmet just because literally why not? As they click Dragon Pulse, a crit doesn't even bring me down to half, which is extremely satisfying. Another Hyperspace Fury is gonna finish off the Goodra, and now we've got the win within our reach. I'm all sorts of reaching with all of my hands, but they also still have their Terra to potentially pull out as well. So final mon gonna be the Garchomp. Not exactly sure how this thing's built, but one thing for sure is the Sticky Web is extremely important because this base 100 fast freaking jet guy is very quick. And now that's gonna allow me to be faster with the Hoopa. So they do end up pulling out the late game Terra, the final stand here. They're just gonna go Terra Dragon, assuming just to boost up. I'm hoping it's not like Scale Shot. Regardless, it doesn't really matter even if Hoopa goes down here because I can get off a huge attack first. That's going to get me enough chip, just punch the hell out of it to the point where now it's going to come down to a 1v1 situation because a Dragon Claw, especially with the Terra boost, is going to be enough to knock out the Hoopa. Hoopa just truly is not, I mean, base 60 defense is never enough. But I mean, hey, I'm proud of the Hoopa. It finally did something for once. And now we've got ourselves a good old fashioned 1v1. They have very scary Terra Dragon Garchomp, and I have a pink Hypno who is fresh out of stealing children from the berry forest. Now, what's interesting and also kind of confusing about this matchup is, even if this is a jolly max speed Garchomp, at -1 from the Sticky Web, my max speed Timid Hypno actually outspeeds here. And all I gotta do is pop him with a little Dazzling Gleam. Now, I decided to go for the Terra Fairy as well, just in case for some reason it's Scarf or something crazy that can allow it to hit me with a Dragon Claw. Now it's gonna be able to stop that, but we are going to be faster. A Terra boosted Dazzling Gleam is going to be enough to finish off the Chomp. And the surprising Hypno is able to come in and clutch it out for us. So that was a really interesting game. It came right down to it there. And a full team effort from my extremely random squad of dudes. So that was that was a crazy game. And I had a lot of fun with that. I thought it was just really cool that Aftermath was actually the difference there. So that's now going to bring us into game number 2 because we got some more spherical fun to be had. And look, if you've stuck around this far into the video, go ahead and hit that like button for me. You probably forgot to click it, but if you're still listening, you might as well hit it. So just go ahead and do me a favor. And with that, let's just jump into the next game. All right, so my opponent this time is going to end up starting off with the old Meowscarada. And, you know, classic lead a lot of the time might be Choice Scarf. Might just go for a U-turn. Regardless, though, I got freaking Pinhead Larry over here who his wing kind of look like eyes, so therefore he's intimidating. Now I get that -1 to the attack, always a pretty good start, but you just never know exactly what a lead Meowscarada is going to do. Regardless though, I'm going to set up Sticky Web. While they do have a Rapid Spinner in the form of Tatsugiri in the back, I'm going to force them to have to do it. They also might have Tidy Up with a Chinchino, but it turns out Meowscarada is going to go for the Toxic Spikes, which is honestly wildly unfortunate because I do not have a grounded poison type or any hazard control, which is, you know, not great. Gonna have to deal with being poisoned, and that kind of stinks. But I get up my Sticky Web, and then I figure, you know what? Why not just go for a Quiver Dance here? I can take any attack from Meowscarada. While they go for a knockoff, does do some chip, but just gets rid of my Focus Sash, which now does not matter. And with the Quiver Dance, I'm now gonna be faster. And honestly, the plan with this Masquerain is always pretty simple. Step 1, get up a Sticky Web. Step 2, try to Quiver Dance and do some damage before it dies, and then I can get something in for free. So at this point, with my little boost, something's about to take some damage from an Air Slash, and as they end up switching out the Meowscarada, probably doesn't have great coverage against me, they end up bringing in Baxcalibur, who is going to touch some Sticky Web, so Buddy's speed is dropped, and as I do go for an Air Slash, it does less than half, so I'm sitting in a spot where I'm like, you know, they probably just Ice Shard here, but they don't, and as I do go for an Air Slash, doesn't quite have enough to knock it out, but I get the flinch, which is always a positive upside. I continue to mash the A button, and the Pointy Bug is able to grab a very satisfying kill against the Baxcalibur there, who was a huge threat. Didn't go for the Ice Shard, paid the price for it, and we love to see it. So, as they now are able to bring in the Chinchino, the thing about Chinchino is, while I'm going to be faster, a lot of it is probably Focus Sash, and I figure they might go for a Tidy Up, which would get rid of my Sticky Web, but it also would get rid of their Toxic Spikes. Now, I go for the Air Slash, is going to knock it down to that Focus Sash, which is fine. And it turns out they also get the flinch on this damn thing too. So Masquerain going on an absolute tear here because now I connect on another Air Slash, and that just takes care of the Chino. So look, now we got 2 free knockouts, which is absolutely more than you can ask for with Masquerain. And as they now go into the Ceruledge here, I am like, dude, there's no shot that I'm about to just connect on a Hydro Pump and also knock this thing out. That would be far too good because the Hydro Pump is going to miss. Unfortunately, it allows them to just go for a Bitter Blade, and that's going to knock me out. So Masquerain does set us up for some success there, taking care of some threats. And we do still have our Sticky Web up, and I figure, look, that's a fine knockout there because I got a couple of setup mons that I want to try to get going here. Now, of course, in this situation, my best bet is looking like Whiscash. And honestly, there only being one layer of Toxic Spikes up, it still is honestly fine. I don't have to worry about that too much because as I can go for a free Dragon Dance here, or at least free I thought, I'm just going to try to set up. But the Ceruledge has different plans. They're going to go for the Terra Grass, and just immediately the sight of a flower is damn near enough to knock out a Whiscash. Now I'm thinking also, what are the odds that they have Terra Blast? Surely that's a defensive Terra, right? Then there's no way they're going to pull out a Terra Blast here. I can get up a little Dragon Dance. We are absolutely fine. We are not fine. However, I do have the Terra Blast, and that is just going to absolutely send my ass back to the muddy river that we came from. So look, I tried the Whiscash. It was worth a shot. Now, at least I do bait them into going for the Terra. So now there's no secrets left behind. They're not gonna pull out anything crazy. And I figure, you know what, I might as well try to take it a little slower here. I'm gonna go into the Bastiodon first because I do not get poisoned. I still have my Sturdy intact. I can go for a Metal Burst. I feel like surely they're gonna like go for a close combat or something, right? Nope, they actually just click Terra Blast here. And a Grass Terra Blast is honestly a pretty smart move in that situation because first of all, it breaks my Sturdy, but also it doesn't do enough for my Metal Burst to even do much. And now I'm like, whatever, I'm just gonna click Stealth Rock. That's that's fine. But they're gonna save the Ceruledge for later. That thing is still a little bit of a threat, but I want to get up my Stealth Rock here to try to make my life a little bit easier in the back. So as they bring in Tatsugiri, it's not gonna be heavy duty boots because it does take the speed drop. So I get up my rocks in front of this thing. And the bad thing about Tatsugiri is it could Rapid Spin here, but also I figure it might just end up going for a Nasty Plot. Regardless though, this little Sushi Fish is kind of a problem. As it does Nasty Plot, my good middle ground play is just to stay in and go for a Body Press. I just need any sort of damage I can get here. It's gonna do a huge amount of damage, easy 2-hit KO, but sadly, after a Nasty Plot, they can just go for a Surf and knock me out. But what the pressure does going for a Body Press there is they're now no longer able to go for a Rapid Spin, and this thing does need a whole lot more speed than it's got currently because at -1 speed, I've got the perfect spherical boy for the job. I can go into the Electrode here. I got some chip on the thing, so I know a Thunderbolt should be able to take care of it. However, looking at the remaining matchup, I find myself in a little bit of trouble not being able to go for the electric move. I know they have a Mudsdale back there, so what I can do is pull out the classic hidden power, baby. We're going to go for the Terra Blast Ice, and the Terra Blast, just going for the Ice Terra here, really just feels like it gives Electrode so much momentum moving forward because first of all, it's a neutral hit against the Dragon Water type here. So as they end up staying in, I was really trying to catch the Mudsdale switching in, but it's still fine because now some Freezer Burnt Sushi, it is going to be enough with the Choice Specs to knock this thing out. So that's extremely satisfying. However, looking at their remaining squad, Snowball Ass Electrode honestly has a really good matchup against all of it. They've got the Meowscarada, which we're faster than. They've got the Mudsdale, which does not enjoy Terra Blast Ice. And then they have the Ceruledge, who's now a grass type. So guess what? Sometimes you got to go full Ice Ball on them. And as they bring in Mudsdale, I'm looking at this matchup thinking, honestly, a Choice Specs Terra Blast after that little tiny bit of Stealth Rock chip should have a really good chance to knock this thing out. And that's if it's like max HP. So I just go ahead. I figure, you know what? We're going for it. It's going to be just barely enough to knock out the horse. And that's that base 80 special attack going crazy with some specs on us. So while I take some continual poison, we're now in a spot where even if like Meowscarada was Choice Scarf, it is now in a spot where after the Sticky Web, we're going to be faster. And this thing doesn't have the ability to change its type. There's no Terra. It's not going to be fast enough to get off at any Protean. And an Ice Terra Blast should just be enough to knock this. It's only got base 70 special defense. So even though Electrode, you know, he's not really known for hitting hard, sometimes you just need that coverage, baby. The Terra Ice Blast is going to be able to finish off the kitty. And now that brings us into a nice little matchup against the Ceruledge, who once was a problem being grass type, but honestly, now it's able to help us out. And sometimes you just got to pull out the surprise Ice Ball and fully clutch it out. So great news is also Ceruledge, with the amount of damage it has on it, plus that little bit of the Stealth Rock chip, it is going to be in range for a Terra Blast to knock it out. Now, if it has a Shadow Sneak, even if it's adamant, it should do probably a max of like 50% to me, which is great. They do not have any priority with the Shadow Sneak, and we just blast his ass to the Shadow Realm. And that is how an ice type Electrode comes in pretty damn clutch. It's going to be able to finish off freaking Blade Arms, and that was pretty satisfying. Looking at that there, I was like, hold on. Clicking this Terra into ice just all of a sudden makes Electrode win the game, and that does not happen often, but it can happen because Electrode is the GOAT. And that is going to do it for the video. Thank you guys very much for watching. I had a whole lot of fun with this one. Messing around with fun stuff is always a good time. And hopefully you enjoyed as well. If you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I will catch you guys next time. Peace out.